Today I'm talking about the Unit 6 review for Austin Middle School. This covers expressions, combining like terms, expression models, and properties of expressions. I'm going to be looking at this Unit 6 review. Question 1, ask which equation is not true? Well, choice A is an example of the inverse property, because this fraction is flipped. They're inverse, they're opposites. And because they're opposites, when you multiply them together, you get 1. Choice B says 0 plus some number equals that number. Well, anytime you add 0 to something, you get the same number. That is called the property of 0. So that one is also true. Now, this one looks like this one. See how each fraction is flipped? But in this one, they get 0 instead of 1. So that one is the one that is not true. D is an example of identity property because you're multiplying by 1. If you multiply by 1, you will get the same number. So that's the identity property. So the answer that was not was C. Question 2 says, which expression is equivalent to 4n plus 5 times 2? Now, because we can move it to the front because it's multiplication, it might look a little bit more familiar to you if you put the 2 in front. And remember, we can use the distributive property. So that means we multiply the number in front times the first number in the parentheses. 2 times 4 is 8, and don't forget the variable. And then 2 times 5 is 10, and then we put the sign in between. That would be answer choice D. Question 3. This is a modeling question. Which expression is equivalent to the expression that is represented by the tiles in the model? Well, first of all, I noticed that these are kind of in groups. And each group has 2 ends. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives in each group. And there's 3 groups, so I could do it like this and multiply times 3. That would be answer choice B. Question 4. Which 2 expressions are equivalent? Well, choice A shows that the little parentheses, or the cheekies there, are regrouping. But you can't regroup a plus sign and a times sign. You can't mix the signs. So that is not correct. The next one shows that they're regrouping, and they just regrouped the multiplication sign. So that is true because that's the associative property. The next one has subtraction. They're regrouping subtraction. You cannot regroup subtraction. You also cannot regroup division. So no mixing the signs and no subtraction, no division. Question 5. What is the prime factorization of 180? So we start with 180 and think what times what would be 180? Well, I know that I could put either a 2 here or I could put a 10. I'm going to start with 10 because it ends with a 0. So 10 times 18 makes 180. But neither one of those numbers are prime, so I have to keep going. What times what equals 10? 2 times 5. What times what equals 18? Well, I know 2 times 9. 2's are prime, so I'm going to circle them. 5's are also prime, so I'm going to circle them. And once I've circled them, then I'm done. 9 is not prime, so think what times what equals 9? 3 times 3. And 3's are both prime. So I've got 2 2's and 2 3's and then a 5. That would be answer choice D. Number 6. Select if the following expressions are equivalent or not equivalent to 8 times n plus 3. Now we're going to use the properties to find equivalent expressions. So on our beginning, we had this. And if we change the order of the 3 and the n, that would be the commutative property. So that stays the same. On the next one, if we distributed and multiplied the 8 times everything inside the parentheses, we would have 8n, and 8 times 3, that makes 24. That's the distributive property. So that one's also equal. But remember, we can't regroup and mix multiplication and addition. If we mix and change our parentheses when it has multiplication and addition, then it's not going to be equivalent. On the next one, they just put the 8 at the end, but it's still multiplying by 8, just like we started out. So that's equivalent. Number 7. Mr. Jackson wrote an expression that is equivalent to 40 divided by 52 minus 36. Which expressions could be the one that Mr. Jackson wrote? To do this problem, we're going to need to remember the order of operation, or the steps. Remember, parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, adding and subtracting. So first, let's do the problem that's in the question. So we need to do the parentheses first. Parentheses say 52 minus 36, which is 16. Then we can do division, 40 divided by 16, which is 2.5. So this whole problem equals 2.5. Now we need to work out all the answer choices to see which one comes out to 2.5. I'm looking at choice A, and it doesn't have parentheses or exponents. So the next thing would be multiplication. So I'm going to do multiplication and division from left to right until I get to the subtraction sign. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Then 8 times 5 is 40. 40 divided by 2 is 20. 20 times 2 is 40. And then 40 times 13 would be 520. Minus, then I have to do the other side, 6 times 6, which is 36. Well, I can already tell that 520 minus 36 is not going to be anywhere near 2. It's more like 484, so that one's definitely not it. The next one, again, there's no parentheses and no exponents, so I'm going to do multiplication and division from left to right. 40 divided by 3 times 8. That's 13 2/3, or 13 and 1/3, or 13 with a 3 repeating. Then they want you to multiply that times 8, which gets you 106.6 repeating. Again, nowhere near 2. Answer C. We do have parentheses on this one, so we need to do the parentheses part first. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. So that parentheses is 40. And then the next parentheses, remember I've got to do multiplication first, and then I go back and get the subtraction. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 13 is 52. So all of this equals 52. And then 6 times 6 is 36. So wait a minute. This is 40 divided by 52 minus 36. That's the exact same problem. I don't even have to finish working it out. That is exactly the same problem. I still want to check the very last answer choice and see if it's possible that I did something wrong. So it doesn't have any parentheses, any exponents, so I'm going to do multiplication and division from left to right. So I start with 4 times 10, which is 40. 40 divided by 4 is 10, and 10 times 4 is 40. So no, it did not. Answer is C. Question 8. What is the value of the expression shown? Enter the correct answer in the box below. So again, remember those steps. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, adding and subtracting. We really don't have parentheses. They're just putting parentheses around the negative number, so we know that's a -3. What we have is an exponent, so that's 3 to the 3rd power. -3 times -3 times -3. So -3 times -3 makes a +9. And +9 times -3 makes a -27. And then I still have a +7. So all that's left is adding and subtracting. And you can write it like that. So it's 7 minus 27. That leaves a -20. They have different signs. This one's positive. This one's negative, so you're really subtracting, and you take the sign of the larger number. Number 9, which choices do not represent an equation? An equation means it has an equal sign, or it has an answer. If there's no answer, then it's not an equation. A number minus 60 is 35. So a number minus 60 is 35. That has an equation. And I see an equal sign there. 4 increased by n. If you're increasing, you're adding, so that's 4 plus n. I do not see an equal sign. The next one, I don't see an equal sign. And then E says the product. Product means times. So the product of 4 and 3, 4 times 3, is 12. That is an equation. The next one got an equal sign, so it's an equation. G says 4 minus 3 is less than 5. That's different than subtracting. That is less than symbol. And a less than symbol is not an equal sign, so that is not an equation. H says a number to the 5th power. Again, no equal sign. We were looking for the knots, so that's C, D, G, and H. So things we're looking for are equal signs, and usually the word is. Just be careful that it doesn't say is less than or is greater than, because that is an inequality symbol. Number 10 says 2 expressions are shown. The second expression is not complete. Circle the number that belongs in the blank so that expression 1 is equivalent to expression 2. So the first thing I notice about expression 1 is that it has minus a negative. And so if you're subtracting integers, there's a rule. Keep, change, opposite. So we keep the first number, we change to addition, and we take the opposite of negative 4, which would be positive 4. Now when they were writing expression 2, they wrote 2n, so they're missing the 4. 4 is what goes in the blank. Number 11. The model represents an expression. Select the correct model below that represents an equivalent expression. So the first thing we want to do is look at this key right here. And it says that a dark triangle is equal to a negative x. Well, I have 4 of those, so that's negative 4x. And then a white triangle is just x. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. And then it says a dark circle is a negative 1. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negative 1s. And then I have 2 open white circles, that's just 2, so positive 2. You can work this out like we've been doing with the combining like terms. So it would be like 4, negative 4 plus a 5. Or you can look at it like for every dark triangle, we can cancel out a white one. And that leaves just 1 white x, so that's 1x. And the same thing for the circles. I can cancel out opposites, and that leaves me with 3 negative. So I'm looking for which one has 1x minus 3. Well, this has a positive x and a positive 2. And this one has a negative x and a negative 2. So those were easy to figure out. Nothing canceled, and neither one of them are x minus 3. But the ones on the end both look like they might cancel out. They have some opposite pairs. So this would cancel over here, and this one over here, and even so there's no x's in this first one. And if there's no x's left over, can't be that. So probably this last one, but let's check it out. So I have 3 negatives. I can cancel out 3 positives. And that left 1 positive x. Plus, cancel out that negative pair. That leaves 1, 2, 3 negatives. And 1x minus 3 is the same as x plus a negative 3. These are the same, so this one matches. Number 12, a numeric expression is shown. What is the value of the expression shown? And number 13 also says what is the value of the expression shown. So both of those are the same type of problem, and they both require the order of operations. Remember, that's parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and then adding and subtracting. So on number 12, I'm looking for the parentheses first. Well, the first thing I see in parentheses is 5 to the second power minus 15. So first I've got to figure out what 5 to the second power is. So I'm doing this part first. Five to the second power means 5 times 5, so that's 25. And then I bring everything else down. Don't forget the parentheses, they're still there. Okay, I haven't finished the parentheses, so I need to go ahead and finish that. 25 minus 15 makes 10. I brought everything down. Okay, parentheses and then exponents. Why is this not a parentheses? I'm not considering this right here a parentheses because it just is one number. There's no operation in there. And what it really means is that we're multiplying the 6 times the 10. So it's really not a parentheses, and you can get rid of that if it confuses you and just put a times sign. So this is 6 times 10. So we're finished with parentheses. We need to do exponents. 4 to the second power means 4 times 4, which is 16. And then I still have minus 6 times 10 minus 1. Okay, so we've done parentheses, exponents. Now we need to do multiplication or division. So there's multiply. 6 times 10 makes 60. And then bring everything else down. And the only thing left is subtraction. I'm going to do that in order from left to right. 16 minus 60 is going to be 44. And since we were subtracting a big number from a little number, it's negative 44 minus 1. And then negative 44 minus 1. Remember, keep, change opposite. So it's a negative 44 and a negative 1. That makes negative 45. So moving to number 13. Again, we're going to use PEMDAS. But the first thing I want to fix is that I see we are subtracting a negative or subtracting an integer. So I want to go ahead and change that with keep, change opposite. So I keep the first number, change minus to plus, and the opposite of negative 27 is positive 27. Then we have divide by 9 and times 4. So when I'm finished rewriting it, there's no parentheses, no exponents. I need to move on to multiplication and division. And remember, we do multiplication and division from left to right. So I'm going to start with 27 divided by 9 because it's on the far left. 27 divided by 9 is 3. And then I bring everything else down. Then I want to do the multiplication part. 3 times 4 is 12. Now I'm finished with all the multiplication and division, and I can move on to adding. 6 plus 12 makes 18.